Okay, here we go. Oh, I know what it is. There we go. Yes. Okay. That's where it's sending. All right. We are going to begin. Let me check all sounds. Good afternoon, everybody. I can't believe I actually a 101. Where is he? My goodness. Crowd is spoiled, is what they are. Yes. We are live. Let me just double check here. Should be good. We have a lot of stories to get to. Plus, we have a special guest that's going to be joining us. Okay, that sounds fine. Audio sounds good to me. We have a lot of folks. It has the weather is definitely more comfortable. Much better than it was. Let's see. Let me make sure everybody is solid. It was quite a day yesterday in Cranston. We're going to touch on that. Quite a day, actually. Yes. Let's see. Boom, boom, boom. We're going to start in just 3 minutes. 3 minutes, we begin. Yes, with the breaking news. Let me check. All right. Facebook is sound. There's Micah Hearn. Team 1. Yes. Hi there, Heather. Roger's ready to go. Look at that. Everyone's ready. Go like this. Oh, I had it. Quite a day, actually. Okay. And I understand. I want to talk about this Tommy Bryan. Guy is killing it. Sheldon. Where am I? There I am. Okay. Nope, something went wrong. Here we go. How about Mayor Hopkins? I like the attitude. I like the attitude a lot. All right, we're going to be live in 1 minute. 1 minute. We're going to be live on, well, we're live right now, but I mean, we're going to begin on our Facebook page. Yes. There's the crowd. Okay. There's Heather. Hi there, Linda. And Deborah. Richard right Madison. Hi there, Denise. Yes, I know. I was saying her name wrong. Just trying to juggle a lot. That's all it is. Hey, listen, I was out there. We were the only media there. It's Kylie Montero. Kylie Montero. Or is it Monteiro? Kylie Montero. Okay, we're going to begin in just a moment. I will have a posting up on this coming up on DePietro.com a little bit later. And we're going to begin right now. Yep. And we have our special guest coming up. Well, folks, good afternoon. Again, right now, 106. We are live on AM 1380, 99.9 FM. Now, remember, you can always listen online at our website. Visit it, DePietro.com. I'll have the latest on the search for Kylie coming up. We were in Rehoboth. I have some information about that story. We're going to talk about it. But this portion of the program, now the weather has cooled off. So the heat wave, by the way, we're also right now live on X. We're live on YouTube. And we're also live on our Facebook page. Facebook, you can share that you are watching. Stars are appreciated. That was pretty chintzy from the Rehoboth broadcast. But anyhow, folks, this portion of our program is brought to you by PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center. You know, right now, homegrown fresh corn is just the way to go. Plus, they have fresh peaches. They have fresh vegetables. They're open 7 days a week. They're a full-scale nursery, and it's all local, family-run business. Steve and Debbie and Junior, Lauren, and Byron. Large selection, beautiful patio pots, annuals, perennials, but stop in for the fresh vegetables that they have. I think they have the best corn in the 401 and peaches. PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center. They're open 7 days a week, right off of Route 4. Say hi to Debbie, and you can pop in on your way home from the beach. Now, we will have the latest regarding the search in Rehoboth. I'm going to tell you about that. It'll be on DePetro.com. Right now on DePetro.com, we have the latest about Cranston. We also have the latest regarding riding with the Westerly Police. We're going to be doing that again. It's all, folks, all right there encompassed at the website, DePetro.com. And by the way, when you're there, there's links to all social media. What do I mean by that? You can link to our TikTok page. You can link to our Instagram page, which continues to grow. You can link to our YouTube page, and then obviously X and Facebook. And it's all brought to you by the Coesit Inn, 226 Coesit Avenue, West Warwick. Lunch, dinner, drinks in the lounge. Plus, they have the great, I love their chef's menu right now. They're always updating specials at the Coesit Inn. Now, remember, they have in the market at Coesit, they have Polish delicacies. They also on the menu have pierogi. They have pork chop, obviously. Tequila lime chicken, which is delicious. Surf and turf, steamers, clam cakes and chowder. The Coesit Inn, 226 Coesit Avenue in West Warwick. You know, we're going to jump around a little bit. At 1:30, we are going to talk to Sheriff Mark Lamb. But I want to start off the latest now. And we're going to follow this story. I don't like this story. And what I mean by it is I don't like the way this sounds. And I'm talking about now, I want to stress, folks, before some of you, this is just going to be a full rant. I don't understand people, before you go off on a rant and critic, why don't you just check the page? Some of you, quick rant here, vent. All right, they're like people that stand, and I didn't grow up in a house like this because it wasn't allowed, but people that stand in front of the refrigerator and say, do we have any milk? Well, I don't know. Let's open it up and see. Some of the information some of you want, it's on the page. I'm telling you, I can't believe, like some of the comments we're talking about, and it's Kylie Montero, 18 years old. So now I shared, last seen in the area of County Street in Rehoboth. Watch, I put County Road. Now these people are going to start going nuts. She's 18 years old. We believe that she is 11 weeks pregnant. Now this is very odd. Missing since August 7th. So let's look at the calendar. That was last Thursday. She has not been seen from or heard from. Today is, the 13th. So now I also shared, some people put, is there a person of interest? Give us some detail. Listen, I'm sharing what the police put out. And that's all they put out. That's all the police put out. Now I shared with you about who lives there, where she was, some relation, the boyfriend. His name is Gregory Groom. So apparently he or his family own quite a bit of property right there. I was showing his picture earlier. And again, I realize I don't like to be the teacher that's yelling at, you have a full classroom and there's like one person in the back. But the information is there. I don't understand or relate to people who I don't know how they survive. Actually, one thing I know, they're not successful. But they don't survive successfully. Just look into it. I'm not there to answer every question and whim that you have. So listen, this doesn't sound good. Now, what we picked up on, for those that watched the video, and I will have it up. It's already up on Facebook. We're also live on TikTok, which I think that's already loaded to YouTube. But this, right now it's a missing person, but it is odd. It's strange. She has family in Rhode Island. So we can only go with the details, Danielle Nicole, that we can only go with the details that the police have shared with us, and just that it's that she is missing. Okay, we need some details here. Who's the person of it? They haven't said that. I think he's a little odd, but now I also want to just we're going to talk about a number of different things here before we talk with Sheriff Mark Lamb coming up at the bottom of the hour. I'm going to touch on the Cranston situation. I mean, and even the Portsmouth situation, which I don't hear local media talking about. Mayor Smiley, I guess, was also on CNN. I want to dip into that. But I want to remind you folks, hey, Propane Plus, we were right near their headquarters today. They're based out of Rehoboth. Call them 508-252-3359 for Propane Plus. In East Greenwich, 401-885-4209 for Propane Plus. All your heating and cooling. If you use propane, listen, they're available 24/7. You can log onto their website. You're going to love Propane Plus. The Johnson family, 3 generations. I think they're the best. I know they're the best. It's beyond thinking. I know. And they are, in fact, the best. Propane Plus. So whether you're in Rhode Island or Massachusetts, call them. Call Propane Plus today. Again, give them a call at Propane Plus. For all your propane needs, you can depend on Propane Plus. So I also want to touch on, the Cranston story is obviously very, there's nothing good about that story. But some of the people, I want to just touch on this. I know that people don't know what to say. But people that just say thoughts and prayers with the family, I mean, there's really not more you can say about that. But let's not. Yesterday at the press briefing at the Cranston Police Station, as they were taking questions, one member of the press said, well, what can you tell us about the victim? Like, where did he go to school? And what was his impact in the community? And what was he doing? What was his footprint, so to speak, within the community? Listen, he was a 16-year-old kid. They're not there to give a homily. They're the police. So all these people, the poor, because I posted, why is a 16-year-old out at 3:30 in the morning? Let me be very clear. When you're that young, they're not expected to know everything. They have poor judgment. That's why we don't let them drink till they're 21. That's why you really can't drive till you're 16 and a half. And even then, it's with restrictions. But if you have a family that, from what I believe, understand, they didn't even know he was missing. Like the reporter, well, what can you tell us about the victim? Where did he go to school? As if the police suddenly have his bio. He wasn't even in school. Here's what I know. It's nothing against the family, but this is a fair question as far as the parents. Someone put, oh, this is terrible. Both parents must be grieving. You don't know that. Is there a father in the picture? I don't know. I don't know if there's a father in the picture. But what we do know is that he was 16 years old and he rode with 2 other individuals from Providence to Cranston. One of them from Fall River, 19 years old, who happened to have a handgun, and they basically executed him. So some of the comments, people, oh, you telling me you didn't sneak out at night? Actually, no, I did not. And I don't think my children did. Not everyone has done that. I'll tell you what I didn't do. When I was 16, I was never at 3:30 in the morning with a 19-year-old from Fall River who had a handgun. So let's curb it back. I don't think there's anything. Why does a 16-year-old need to be out that late? And then people just start putting in excuses. Well, maybe he stuck out. How about they didn't even know he was missing? I'm not trying to, but the reaction of people. You know what's getting at me is people react as though it's like an act of God. Like, no one should place blame. Something like this can't be. Like, what are you talking about? Maybe if he had a curfew, maybe if he was in school, maybe if they said, no, you have to be home by midnight. You're 16 years old. Listen, that age, they don't know anything. He's not even in school. Meaning, apparently, dropped out. Does the family even speak English? The people that put thoughts and prayers with the family, as if they put that as if they've accomplished something. This is the type of thing that happens when you're 16. You shouldn't be out at that time of night. You shouldn't be out with a 19-year-old from Fall River who's a gang member and happens to have a handgun. There's nothing good about this equation. Nothing good was going to come out of it. They were maybe going to steal a car, or maybe it was a ruse. Maybe they're going to break into cars. Does any of that sound positive? Here's what I know. If he had been home by 1 o'clock in the morning, there's that. So he's not 18. He's not an adult. He's a minor. The parents are responsible. This business that some people treat some of these things as if he got struck by a bolt of lightning. He shouldn't have been out. And I'm sure that wasn't the only first time he's been out. And what I've also noticed that some people won't get, but I notice, is when you go on social media, you don't even see people posting tributes to him. Now, a gang member told me yesterday that means that everyone basically approved of what happened. They ran with the same crew. They were part of the same crew. But the reaction of people, everyone should be, listen, the police worked around the clock to try to find the right person. And there's still a suspect out there. Remember, there were 3 arrived in the car, only 2 left. So, a 16-year-old should not be hanging around or out with a 19-year-old who has a handgun. What's so bad about that? On top of that, the subscribers, we posted the video. So, Damori Montero. There he is. This is who the son was out with. He's out with the 16-year-old. He's got the weapon from Fall River. So 9 years ago, when he was 10, there's a video of him. They're not Spanish. I think they're speaking. I posted it for the subscribers. Creole, maybe? Or like Haitian, maybe? From what I heard also, probably not. His family's not even here legally. But it's the reaction of... I'm not going to go into, nothing good happens after midnight. So I don't, that's too much of an easy response. I'm not saying I disagree with it. At that age, though, when I was in college, I worked at the living room. Now think, we open till 2, you're going to clean up. So basically leaving there 2:30. Sometimes some of the people, would either go out to breakfast or have a drink in the parking lot. Sometimes you'd hear about an after hours party, but you're more inclined to run into problems at 3:30 or 4 o'clock in the morning that you wouldn't run into if you were home earlier. So I don't want people to diminish that. So certainly he didn't know what was going to happen, but I think that's asking a lot. A lot of things can go, hear me out. A lot of things can go wrong when a 16-year-old child is out at 3:30 in the morning riding in a vehicle with a 19-year-old who's got a handgun on him. A lot of things can go wrong. So I get some of the people, that should be, then no one's going to say anything. No one elected official is going to say anything, but it's another reminder to parents. There's got to be some rules. You have to, you're their parent. You're not their friend. You're not their bestie. You're not a buddy. I mean, it speaks volumes. But I was shocked at the media. Well, what about his classmates? As if the police are going, oh, yeah, he, was third in the class. He was studying geometry. He wanted to be a scientist. What? He's 16 years old, lives in Manton, and is out at 3:30 in the morning after the Dominican festival with a 19-year-old with a handgun. Well, what was his footprint? Folks, you need to keep children busy at all ages. That's why, now listen, we still have time to go here. Remember Kids Club on the Pike. Kids Club on the Pike. What they do is not only are they still run their summer camp right till when kids go back. 401-443-5336, Kids Club on the Pike. They are located right off of 295 on the Cranston-Johnston line. Kids Club on the Pike, 401-443-5336. Now, it's perfect for a birthday party gathering. They also do before and after school care and preschool. Kids Club on the Pike, but you can still take advantage of their summer camp. Call Kristen today, 401-443-5336. Folks, we're just seeing more and more examples where law and order has to step in. And I approve of, like a lot of people, of what President Trump has been enacting, what they're about to do with DC. We're having some strong voices speak out right now. And one of the other voices, she is the U.S. Attorney now in the District of Columbia, Janine Piero, Judge Janine. And so fantastic. She is speaking out about crime in D.C. For a long time, the only people that have been talking out are a lot of people on the border. And folks, someone that is not new to the equation, who's been a leader, though, with all the problems that so many of the illegals bring in. And it's more the people that allow it to happen. And he joins us right now. I want to welcome. It is Sheriff Mark Lamb of the John DePietro. Sheriff, good to see you, and thanks for taking the time to talk to us.
Good to see you as well, John. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Sheriff, if you'd be so kind, share with us what this first little over 100 days, but what the first few months of the, well, actually even 200 days of the Trump administration has meant to someone like yourself.
Well, look, it's been huge. We saw it, let's go all the way back 4+ years ago when the Biden administration took over, especially as it related to the border. I think on so many levels it was a disaster, but especially when it came to the border, it was like a light switch, John. It was overnight, the problem became just out of control. And they just continued to escalate it over and over. And the amount of women and children and men that were trafficked, and the amount of drugs that were trafficked into this country, the amount of American lives lost to fentanyl poisoning was staggering. And the only reprieve, it looked like, this is part of the reason I ran for the U.S. Senate, but it looked like the only reprieve was we needed a change of leadership. And President Trump said we didn't need new laws, we didn't need new bills. What we needed was a change in leadership. And he was exactly right, because even prior to him taking office, after the election, we already started to see the effects it was having on the cartel's operations, whether it related to human trafficking or drug trafficking. And then since they've been in there, the policies and the actions matching the words has been critical to the American people. And now we're seeing virtually nobody coming across the southern border, and it's having a tremendously positive impact in our communities. But what remains now, and what they've done a good job of, but the problem is the left and so many Americans, not so many, a small portion of Americans are fighting against, is the removal of the people that came into this country illegally. And that's one of the challenges we continue to face, but they've done a good job of pushing through that and doing the job the American people asked them to do. I know that was a long answer, John, but that was
a great one.
I tried to encapsulate it as best I could.
I love it. Folks, again, it's Sheriff Mark Lamb. Sheriff, if you'd be so kind, you have a unique story, background. If you would just, indulge our listeners and followers a little bit of the path that has led you to where you are today.
Yeah, look, I never started off wanting to be in law enforcement. I was a business guy. My dad was a graduate of an international business school here in Arizona. I was born and raised in Hawaii, lived in the Philippines and Panama and Argentina. But what that did was gave me and my siblings a deep, deep appreciation of this country. Not only am I a descendant of 8 of the occupants of the Mayflower, I mean, my family's been here for well over 400 years. I truly love this country and have a deep appreciation for the sacrifices of honor and fortunes that it took to give us the freedoms we have. So when I went on that first ride along and said, hey, came home that morning, woke my wife up, and I said, honey, I'm going to be a cop. And immediately, I was 34 years old when I went into the academy, but it gave me an advantage over everybody. And then I got to another point where during the Obama administration, I realized I didn't like the direction of the country, especially as it related to the profession of law enforcement. I saw that they were driving a wedge between the community and law enforcement. And instead of being the guy that just complained about it, I thought I may as well do something about it. And so I decided to run for sheriff. And in 2016, I won my election and took office in 2017. And for the last 8 years, served as the sheriff of Pinal County, Arizona, which is between Phoenix and Tucson, which really was the last line of defense for all the humans that were being trafficked in Arizona and all the drugs, which comprises well over 50% of all the drugs in America have come through Arizona's borders. And Pinal County became a critical piece to stopping that. We were the last one. If we didn't stop it, it made it to Phoenix and throughout the rest of the country. So the last 8 years, I have dedicated my life to fighting against drug cartels, human trafficking, drug trafficking. I personally had a son who had a drug problem, and we saw the awful effects that has on a family. And so, look, I personally have been affected like so many other Americans, and that's why I fight so hard against this stuff.
Sheriff, if you would be also so kind, it's interesting to me from, the different years being in DC where I would attend fair and we'd have people like yourself and some of the ranchers from Arizona and the Border Patrol and Tom Homan and talk about that Arizona was basically under attack. But what I'm curious is, and you're exactly right, one person, the presence of President Trump enacting this, it sounds like it's fundamentally changed Arizona.
It has. And look, whether it's the border or whether it's Washington, D.C. or L.A., when you have weak leadership, what happens is the wolves run wild. Okay. The predators run wild. You have got to have a strong person in there that not only does what they say or says what they're going to do, but they do what they say they're going to do. And that is what President Trump has brought back to the table. That's why the border was restored to sanity, was because a strong leader came in and people want to follow him. The employees are extremely excited. Now you see what's happening in Washington, D.C. and how President Trump is having to intervene there. And now these folks are scrambling around going, oh, no, we reduced the amount of crime, but it's still not low enough. And even then you were manipulating the numbers. So
Yes.
you weren't even being honest with the people. The reality is our capital should be the beacon on the hill for this country. And when you walk into this country, into Washington, D.C., and you get carjacked or you get murdered or all of these things, that sends an awful message to anybody who is looking at America as a beacon. We become hypocrites when we try to go out and protect other countries when our own capital is a complete disaster. And so I love the fact that he is restoring law and order, not just at the border, but all across this country. And those of us in this profession, we love that he is empowered. We have a leader that understands the importance of the rule of law and is not afraid to do what it takes to restore the rule of law in a place.
Folks, again, we're speaking with Sheriff Mark Lamb. Sheriff, I'm curious, what a lot of people don't realize is what was going on south of the border. It was big business. The amount of money, the trafficking of people, who they had to pay, the coyote, so vividly, so many people would explain the process. What is their reaction now? South of the border, the people that were profiting from this, the people that were saying, pay me this and I'll get you over the border. How are they reacting to the change since President Trump has come in again?
Well, look, they don't like it because it's affected their business. In the first Trump administration, the cartels went from making about $500 million a year to now during the Biden administration. Is a huge difference. Okay, that is an astronomical difference. And what made that difference was the human trafficking piece of it. The human trafficking piece. You had people now showing up and handing cash, 5 to 10,000, sometimes even up to $50,000, saying to the cartel, "Please take me into America, and I'll give you this money." So where their business was based on moving drugs into the country, selling them, and then moving the money back, which took time and resources and logistics, they now had cash overflowing in their coffers because of the human trafficking piece, which made the drug trafficking piece a lot easier and harder for us to catch, because the drug trafficking piece, they were able to spread throughout far more people that were coming into this country. And the thing that concerns me the most, John, is the amount of criminals and the amount of people that went unvetted, that are likely terrorists, or at least secondary or tertiary, that may not be on the terrorist watch list, but they were actively involved in those terrorist organizations as a tertiary or in a third way of being involved in those organizations. So we have a lot of people in this country, a lot of people from China, a lot of people from the Middle East, Iran, Iraq, all these different places where they're now here in this country and they pose a threat. And so when we talk about removing people that are in this country illegally, that is some of the people that we need to focus on removing, the criminals. But every one of them that came to this country illegally broke the law. Let's not forget that.
That's right. Folks, again, it's Sheriff Mark Lamb. Sheriff, before I let you go, a big sheriff in our area, Sheriff Tom Hodgson, that was a fantastic day. One of the things President Trump that I think understood and did, the day I'm referring to, was when the sheriffs were in D.C., and he hosted an event at the White House. And I always felt, after talking to and interviewing so many different sheriffs, that it just meant a lot that they weren't alone in this war. Kind of, it was his way, to say, I see you and help is on the way.
100%, John. And that's one of the things that FAIR did so well, the Federation for American Immigration Reform. I'm actually one of their law enforcement advisors now, is bringing people to DC, not just to talk to folks like yourself who are actually reporting on these things across this country. But what it did was, we would go to the White House and we would feel the support from the administration. Law enforcement and being able to maintain the rule of law in this country is a difficult job. And then when the federal government's against you, with like what we had the last 4 years, it makes it even more difficult to do our job. As a sheriff of Pinal County, Arizona, not one of the largest, I was part of the major county sheriffs, but I went to the White House 10 times for different things during that first Trump administration. And so this is a president who understands the importance of not just the rule of law, but he understands the importance of elected sheriffs in this country as well. And we were honored to have a seat at the table. And now that he's back in there, once again, we have that cohesiveness with federal government and local government, and we're able to combat.
For some reason, he kicked out a little bit. There we go.
Not bad.
All right.
I forgot to put it on Do Not Disturb, John.
That's all right. That's all right.
Me, so I apologize.
Sheriff, first of all, you're such an important voice. How can people follow you or learn more about you? How can people follow Sheriff Mark Lamb? You are such an important voice right now in 2025.
Well, I appreciate that, John, and I'm continuing to do what I'm doing. I just started a business, you see behind me, 10-7. What I'm doing is helping law enforcement and veterans transition out of their profession, or even if they're still doing it, and even non-law enforcement, non-citizens as well. We teach them about business. We help them understand entrepreneurship, and we create that camaraderie and squad. We help them set up their first LLC. So whether it's for tax purposes or whether it's to create something for them and their families beyond their service to their communities, we're helping them do that. And that's at 107consulting.com. I just launched a book, 10-7, When Your Shift Ends and Your Life Begins. It was #1 bestseller last week in leadership on Amazon. So we're pretty excited about that. So please go check me out there. And then, of course, if you want a bobblehead or something like that, you can go to sherifflamb.com. We got a few of those things. And then marklamb.us. It's got a lot of the different things that I'm doing. But I'm trying to stay real active, and I'm working with FAIR and doing what I can, John, to still be a strong voice. The fact that I'm not the sheriff has not been the end all be all. It's given me an opportunity to go all over the country. I'll be in Maine in 2 weeks. We'll be up there on the northern border looking at what's going on up there. So
Great.
a lot of stuff still going on. And I appreciate you being a strong voice out there on the East Coast as well.
Folks, Sheriff Mark Lamb. Sheriff, I'm going to share the links all on all of our social media pages, but a great honor to speak to you. Keep up the great work. We will talk to you again. Thanks, Sheriff.
Thanks, John. Appreciate it. Have a good one.
All right, folks, there it is. Sheriff Mark Lamb right here on the John DePietro Show. Let me tell you, that guy, you can hear it. And I also wanted that dovetails into Mayor Hopkins yesterday and also the Portsmouth police situation. See, we need more voices like that. And I want to touch on that. But folks, I also want to remind you, by the way, that if disaster strikes or when disaster strikes, Serve Pro of Providence. They're fast, thorough, professional. Call them today, 401-941-5500. Serve Pro of Providence, whether it's fire damage, water, mold. Serve Pro, 401-941-5500. Always available 24/7, and they have great social media presence online, serveproprovidence.com. I was very impressed with the mayor of Cranston yesterday, Mayor Hopkins, who I've known for a while, and I knew his brother. And, his attitude yesterday, and again, I've posted the cuts on our social media pages, but I haven't heard anyone talk that way. I haven't heard a mayor refer to, Mayor Hopkins saying, if you come into my city, you're not going to break the law and get away with it. And we don't have anyone talk that way. I don't know what his plans are. He was just elected mayor. Again, he beat back a challenger. The Republicans don't have someone running right now for governor next year. Mayor Hopkins warning criminals, if you come into Cranston, our police will catch you and prosecute you. I'll tell you, folks, it was very powerful and refreshing to hear. And I want to take a moment. I don't want to say I feel bad for the Portsmouth police, but what's missing right now is, if you step back, ICE, Todd Lyons, we've played it, is pummeling the Portsmouth, Rhode Island Police Department. And I communicated with the chief over the weekend, because I was the one putting it out, that he was saying, hey, we cooperated with ICE where we release this child predator in front of the station. And then, folks, but it becomes it's like a game of, remember Muckle? Muckle used to be, you throw up the ball, you have like a group of kids, you throw the ball up in the air, whoever catches it runs with it until they're tackled. Then you muckle them. And then, then once they're tackled, then they throw it up and it just keeps going. But I don't hear anyone, either an elected official or certainly not our local media, to step back. And again, I want to be very clear. So Portsmouth has this illegal, Portsmouth, Rhode Island Police, East Bay, right? Portsmouth, Middletown, start to come back. Bristol, Warren, East Bay, Portsmouth Abbey, Carnegie Abbey's over there. Portsmouth, nice community. I think Patrick Kennedy used to have a house there. I don't think anymore. But anyhow, Gay Bomb. But so they have an illegal who's a child predator. He is, going after children online. But in Rhode Island, but I don't hear anyone saying the following either. See, under Governor McKee, think about this. Especially, we get a lot of either family of law enforcement, former law enforcement, even current. But So Portsmouth police have the person. Instead of just, okay, one person from ICE drives there, they pull into the Sally Port, or they pull next to the Sally Port, which is the police garage, and then they bring him out and they place him in the vehicle behind the fence, and then the ICE person drives him away because the back seat is almost, it's contained. It's like a little cell almost. But in Rhode Island, because of Governor McKee, no one even notices. Does that make sense to anybody? So instead, Portsmouth police have him, and they're looking at the ICE agents on the curb, and then it's, okay, go. And then who knows? If they're not there, he runs for freedom. Maybe his friends are there to pick him up. Maybe one of his friends is there and slips him a weapon. So then he's free, and then the ICE agents have to muckle him, tackle him. Like, this is insanity. When we were covering, and I mentioned this, we were covering the standoff. And first of all, let me step back for a moment. Does that make sense to anybody listening? Governor McKee could change that. Today, with the stroke of a pen, Governor McKee could say no more of that. Transfer the prisoner to ICE instead of ready, set, go. And it's like he's got to run through the gauntlet. Now, remember, if ICE is late arriving, the police just let him go. I saw someone put these judges letting him go. It's misguided anger. It's Governor McKee. Chafee started this in 2014. But I want to go back to last month. There was this standoff in Cranston. And who was it? It was a guy wanted out of Pawtucket. And a Cranston officer noticed, I think there was a license plate, or maybe noticed him. And then, so they have the standoff. You remember? They, fired the flashbangs, and then the guy comes out. And then what did we see, for those who are watching? A Pawtucket police car eventually shows up. And the Cranston police, who have him in the Cranston police car, take him out, and they place him. I think they switched handcuffs but they put him in the Pawtucket car. One Pawtucket cop came, drove him off. Here's what I want you to understand. And I don't hear anyone talking about this. That's the way it should work with ICE. In other states, that's the way it works with ICE. This is insanity. Can you imagine if Cranston said, all right, send Pawtucket police over. You stand at Park Avenue. We're on Warwick Avenue. Okay, ready? We're going to release him. Now you have to try to run and tackle him. Total insanity. No, they don't do that. They'd have to send 5 over just in case. My point is, I don't hear that. And again, from what I understand, Pawtucket police are getting a lot of negative feedback from people around the country who have been learning of the story of this business because of McKee, Governor McKee. They release him, and then ICE has to have 5 officers take him. Insanity, folks. There's no reason it has to work that way. And furthermore, in other states, it doesn't work that way. You don't hear any elected official mention that. But getting back to Mayor Hopkins, I thought that was great yesterday. I liked hearing that. If you come into my city, I don't hear the mayor of Warwick say that. I don't hear Mayor Gravian say that. I don't hear Mayor Smiley. I don't think I hear Mayor Smiley say that. I don't hear the mayor of Woonsocket say that. Right now, Mayor Hopkins, the only Republican in office, I think we are in a climate of people want law and order. You know, what President Trump has learned, and by the way, I have family in D.C., it's wildly dangerous. And then, folks, you step back and say, why should it be that way? Why shouldn't we be able to have dinner in D.C. and, walk back to our hotel or whatever? But you can't because it's not safe to walk the streets. President Trump is tapping into that. Why is that? It doesn't have to be that way. Folks, I want to remind you about quality asphalt seal coating. Call Corey today, 401-283-9815. Free quote. Hey, have him epoxy your garage. Makes a huge difference. Quality asphalt seal coating. They can epoxy garages and patios, decorative concrete flooring. They can make your pavement look like new. They can also do crack filling, quality. Look for them. I share their Facebook page, social media, 401-283-9815. If you want to improve the value of your home, get your garage epoxy. It makes a huge difference. 401-283-9815. Now, Lenny said he's thinking of redoing his kitchen. Who is it that I recommend? Lenny, call Arch Design Builders today. 401-207-4124. 401-207-4124. Lenny, Arch Design Builders. Ed and Roxanne, whether it's a new kitchen or a bathroom or a basement or a deck or a special project, Arch Design Builders. Give them a call today. 401-218-9707. Again, I share their social media page. It's Arch Design Builders. Again, good afternoon, folks. It is the John DePietro Show. I mean, to me, that makes no sense. And when I've talked to other law enforcement, but I haven't heard, unless I've missed something. Now, folks, also, just so we're clear, I'm not delusional. I don't expect it to be a story in the New York Post. I'm not saying it should be on the front page of the Washington Post, New York Post, Washington Post, New York Times. But what I'm saying is I noticed that not one local media, has hit on the fact that why is it that the Portsmouth, Rhode Island police, this whole game of tag, this whole game where police in Rhode Island release someone, an illegal now, and then ICE has to run and try to muckle them and capture them. That doesn't make sense. There's no other policing that operates that way. So this whole notion that that's just the way they do it. Well, again, that's actually not the way they do it. That's just the way they operate with ICE. I want to see if I can put Providence Mayor Brett Smiley appeared on CNN, and he was asked about President Trump sending the National Guard in. Now, Channel 6, let me see how much they have of this. Channel 6 is the one that posted this. I was unaware. I'll try to find the full clip. Let me just see if we can hear a little bit of this from Mayor Smiley. I don't know what the answer is or what he's going to say. Let's hear this. This is from
responding to the Trump administration's decision to send the National Guard into Washington, D.C. CNN's Audie Cornish interviewed Mayor Smiley about the statistics in both D.C. and here in Providence, showing lower rates of homicides and violent crime. And they asked Smiley whether the number of violent crimes truly matters to victims' families.
No amount of violent crime should be acceptable. And in my city, we work to get towards zero every year. And I know through the United States Conference of Mayors that most American cities are having on the right trajectory with crime statistics, but we're all working towards zero. The question is whether actions like this will actually help us get to zero. I don't think they will. Community policing works. Having local law enforcement with a relationship with the neighborhoods that they are policing and patrolling works. Sending in National Guardsmen and women who have not been trained in urban policing, are not trained community police officers, isn't going to make our cities any safer.
You know, that is not true.
Smiley, what would you say?
No. Hold on. I want to disagree, but I'll explain how I disagree with Mayor Smiley. First of all, crime in Providence, for the most part, is down. Number of murders, I talk about this, homicide are down. But let's go back 5 years ago when they had the riot at Providence Place Mall. And many folks, you can argue, and we talk about this with Dan McGowan of the Globe, that Providence has never fully recovered from the riot from 5 years ago. But immediately following that riot, what did Governor then Gina Raimondo do? It was Alorza that said, Alorza told the police to stand down. It was Raimondo. She called in the National Guard. That Friday night, that first week of June 2020, That was the Friday night. Black Lives Matter. It is true. I was there. 10,000 people at the Rhode Island State House. And that could have gone a lot of different ways. But the National Guard was called in. The National Guard was all over downtown Providence. And they were all over the mall. I still remember they had the Humvee right in front of the Cheesecake Factory. National Guard were everywhere. So right now in D.C., I think it sounds like it is the right decision to call out the National Guard, to quell things. The National Guard was brought in to get it under control. From what I understand right now in D.C., is you have large groups of kids, and there'll be 50 kids. And a problem with that is they wear masks and they go around and they rob people and they assault people. And it's like a roving riot, and you can't control it. And police, what it sounds like to me in Washington, because I'll say where Mayor Smiley, he's not wrong on strategy. Think of, folks, just a couple years ago, the ATVs were considered an unfixable problem. The idea that anyone could stop the ATVs from terrorizing Providence seemed like, well, you can't stop them. And sometimes there'd be 50 of them at a time. A couple years later, new mayor, allures are gone. Gone. Smiley comes in and says, you got to get rid of these ATVs. So what do Providence police do? We're going to target where they store them. People that are riding them, they're not riding them in from North Providence. They're not riding them in from Warwick. They're not they were storing them in different warehouses in and around the city. And Providence police started to target that. And suddenly now, as we're out on Road Patrol Live, which we will be tonight, the city of Providence doesn't have an ATV problem anymore. So it's actually, it's not it's not an unsolvable problem, is what I'm saying. So, but if you have, I'm willing to bet the mayor of DC is not up to the job. Her police chief was being asked a question about chain of command. There's audio, and the chief of police in DC said, well, what do you mean by chain of command? How are you the chief of police if you don't know the term chain of command? But this is part of, people aren't put in positions of power because they're the best possible people.
No,
they're put in power just because, it's their turn, essentially. So, but how do you have someone who is the chief of police? And here it is, chief of police, and then the mayor jumps in. This is the DC chief of police, doesn't understand the term chain of command.
What does that mean? So the executive order is clear. The president has...
Chief of police. What does chain of command mean? Okay. Now we're getting a fair firsthand look at what the problem is. Folks, when you step back, by the way, I've also always said this, especially for those of you that watch when we're out, covering crime. And that's what we do. We cover crime. I'm sick of these messages. Why won't you cover what happened at the ACI? Listen, you guys do your content. I'll do my content. I do crime. I can't get access to the ACI. I can't interview anyone at the ACI. I can't. What am I supposed to do? Go up? I know someone died in the custody. How come you're not posting that? You handle your content. I'll handle my content. Those of you that follow know, we were first on scene in Cranston at the shooting on Monday. You could tell yesterday who is basically running that press briefing. I mean, and I'm not saying that against the police or the mayor. What's also interesting is, so we did Facebook Live. Channel 10 did Facebook Live. Channel 12 did Facebook Live. And the numbers are not that far off. But for the most of the time on Monday, for the majority of the time, it was really just first me and Channel 12, and then me 10 and 12. And then Channel 6 eventually showed up. So I'm not naive. When I say, how come the media, I mean, it's more like what's left of it. Mayor Smiley, I'll give him credit. He lets Chief Oscar Perez and he lets Deputy Chief O'Hara run the department. The Providence Police, also, for those of you that watch Road Patrol Live, they have a lot of police out there. You know, I often talk about it when we're out. They don't send 2 officers to a call. Look at last night, somebody on River Avenue. The call was there was an argument. Someone had a sharp object. Would I often count off the number of cruisers? I think they had 5 or 6 cruisers there. How about it was last week, I think. There was like a fight in an apartment. There were at least 3 cruisers, 4 cruisers maybe. So, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing because police do act as a deterrent. But one of the things that's lacking right now in DC is you just don't have enough police on the street. It makes no sense. Think progressives don't care about quality of life. Progressives do not care about quality of life. They feel, oh, well, somebody gets assaulted, somebody gets stabbed, somebody gets mugged, someone gets their home broken into. They just say, hey, you know, welcome to the big city. That's their attitude. I remember several years ago, it was, I think that guy, what's his name? Josh Rogan, I think is his name. Anyhow, it was an actor and he posted like, hey, listen, I don't want to hear any more about people complaining that their cars get broken into. Like, welcome to Los Angeles. That should not be welcome to, that shouldn't be welcome to any city. Folks, this portion of our program, remember, if you want your driveway paved, J. Perry Paving, call them today, 401-732-1730. 401-732-1730, letter J, J. Perry Paving. And if you're a veteran, they have a special package for veterans called J. Perry Paving today, 401-732-1730. Free estimate. You know, I've gone with them on some of their jobs, and sometimes, you know what's better than getting 1 driveway paved, 2 driveways, 3 driveways? Maybe you're friendly with your neighbors. Everyone's thinking of getting their driveway paved. Hey, it's a better deal that way. Call them, free estimate, J. Perry Paving, 401-732-1730. Well, folks, again, it is the John DePietro Show. I want to thank our guest, Sheriff Mark Lamb. Boy, I like that. And Mayor Hopkins, he deserves a lot of credit. Right now, there is no law and order candidate that I am aware of who's running for governor or any other office for that matter. We need more of that type of talk. We will be out tonight, Road Patrol Live. If you're listening to the radio, stay tuned for the 2 o'clock news. Thank you again to the sheriff.